Omarion Hampton, breakout game. Guys like Jordan Mason showed out today. Matthew Golden could be coming into his own, but I'll let this man right here start with the first player on our list for the playbook.
Ladies and gentlemen, with the 507 in the Flock League, I select Quinshon Judkins, and got a lot of crap for that, and now it looks pretty dang good. 18 carries, going up against Green Bay's defense, one of the best defenses in the league, and I will say, watching that game, and it was a miserable game, they looked like the best defense in the league still. Them and Cleveland looked like the top two. And Judkins, despite that, outproduces star running back Josh Jacobs on Green Bay. 18 carries, 94 yards. That's 5.2 yards per carry. A goal line carry, a touchdown, 2 targets, a reception as well. Folks, number one, I was right. Number two, Jerome Ford and Dylan Sampson complete, essentially non-factors in this game. Dylan Sampson, they were like, who are you? Get out of here. Judkins is back. Jerome Ford, they're like, okay, we'll put you down on a couple of passing down sets. He got like 4 targets, 4 receptions. Quinshon is the new established bell cow running back for the Cleveland Browns. And when they're not playing Green Bay, I mean, he's going to do even more than this because there is nobody else in that room contending with him in the opportunities there. He is the certified number one option there. I mean, alongside a guy like Omarion Hampton, who I'm sure you're going to talk about as well. I mean, you're looking at both of those guys with Najee going down for the Chargers, where now there's no excuse for them not to give Hampton the ball. And then a team like Cleveland, who's rational enough to give their best player the ball. This is a really, really, really good week for these two rookies.
Yeah, let's talk about Jordan Mason. Jordan Mason was one of my guarantees this week. 23.6 points for Jordan Mason, 16 attempts, 116 yards, and 2 tutties. Like I expected, they were going to always lean on Jordan Mason very heavily without J.J. McCarthy, without Aaron Jones. Of course, he only gets 16 carries there. It's not 16 touches and anything crazy, but hyper efficient. 7.25 yards per carry against an absolute crap Bengals defense. We'll talk about all the Bengals here in a minute, but Jordan Mason comes out today. If you have him on your fantasy football roster, he is a must-start for the next 3 weeks at least. And we'll see what it looks like when Aaron Jones comes back. But with the injuries there in Minnesota, Jordan Mason getting this volume, it looks like this is something that is going to be a very positive development if you drafted Jordan Mason in your fantasy football leagues. The fantasy gods sent you a favor. Aaron Jones is out. It's Jordan Mason time.
So aside from a couple of rookies finally producing in week 3, I do think at the end of the day, week 3 was kind of a comeback to reality week for all these guys that we expected to, all these proven guys that we expected to produce and really disappointed through the first couple of weeks of the season. And look no further than Philly and AJ Brown and Devonta Smith both popping off this week. Again, we knew that this was going to happen at some point, and this is why pretty much constantly we were telling people not to sell off AJ Brown and panic, because a time was going to come where his target volume was not only going to go up, because we saw that in week 2, but the receptions were going to come, the big plays were going to come, the touchdowns were going to come. 22 points for AJ Brown and 20 points for Devonta Smith. 10 targets and 9 targets respectively for both of those guys. So again, these are the types of games that you live for when you own both of these guys. Now, to bring it down back to earth a little bit as well, you are going to see weeks like we saw in weeks 1 and 2 where one or both of these guys will be disappointing. At this point, that should be baked into their price because of the way that they operate this offense. But again, you're talking about week winning upside any given week for both of these guys, and they showed yet again why they're one of the best wide receiver duos in the NFL.
Omarion Hampton, my boy, my boy, had his breakout game today. And, of course, it is at the expense of Najee Harris, who popped his Achilles, it looks like. So, obviously, a very unfortunate injury for Najee. It's pretty tough to watch, honestly. But with Hampton, what you notice is when Najee came out of the game and they started giving Hampton the touches they were giving Najee, as in the good touches, as in the touches where you don't get tackled 3 yards behind the line every time, Hampton looked pretty darn good. Now, people will point to his efficiency, 3.68 yards per carry, and say that that is going to be a hindrance for Hampton. And what I will say to you is this: he scored 25 points in PPR leagues. I don't care about his efficiency.
You can give me Hampton if you want to.
I will gladly take Hampton from you. And the thing is with Hampton, he ended up getting 19 carries for 70 yards. If you watch the game, you'll know. I watched every snap of Hampton in this game. And Hampton, when he was getting clean looks and not getting tackled for losses, I mean, he was getting 5 to 7 yards every time he touched the ball. But it was really the receiving game for Hampton that made his stats pop off the page. 6 receptions for 60 yards. But again, this was a big part of Omarion Hampton's skill set, and it's why I took him in the second round of the Flock League draft, is because he does have this receiving upside. If he didn't, he wouldn't have gone in the first round of the NFL draft. Without Najee Harris for the rest of the year, Omarion Hampton, he's going to move back up my rankings. He is, you've already seen it, even though he might have weeks like week 1 where he has 9 points. He has this kind of upside, 25-point upside any given week for a rookie running back. That is something that you cannot deny could be fantasy football league winning. And so with Omarion Hampton, for the rest of the way, it looks like he is going to get a very heavy workload in Los Angeles, and he is only going to get better as the year goes on. He is somebody that if you can buy stock in now, it may not be too late, but it's about to be too late. The train's leaving the station. Omarion Hampton has arrived, baby.
Train already left the station with Kyren Williams. This is one where I think a lot of people were panicking last week about Blake Corum getting a goal line carry and getting touches. And I'm just telling you guys, like, there's no reason to freak about this and the touches that Blake Corum is getting, and this should have been made clear. I think in week 3, especially, Kyren has a 19-point game, vintage Kyren day, 20 carries for 94 yards. 4.7 yards per carry, gets a couple of targets as well, and a receiving touchdown, which is not super common for a guy like Kyren, but he was able to pull it off, which was really, really solid. He's going to continue to be the bell cow there and get the bulk of the relevant opportunities in terms of like high production upside, those goal line carries, those red zone touches, etc. I'm not really worrying about Blake Corum. He's kind of a change of pace back at this point. Here's the positive outlook for Blake Corum the rest of the season. He's a change of pace back. That's literally what it is. That's what Sean McVay has been looking for since they lucked into finding Kyren like in the 5th round. This is something that they haven't had, and it's a reason why he's gotten like 90+% snap share. Ideally, for the longevity and health of Kyren Williams throughout an entire season, you're going to want to get him off the field a couple of times, maybe for a series or 2 during a game. That's just what you see with a lot of these bell cows. You want to get a Jerome Ford in for a series. You want to get a Justice Hill in for a series with these bell cows. You want to get a Blake Corum in if he's going to be serviceable, and he is serviceable. He had 53 rushing yards, but again, when you're looking at these splits, total plays, 50 snaps for Kyren Williams, 16 for Blake Corum. This is a bell cow running back with a backup that will get some touches to give Kyren a breather. Kyren at this point is no longer a buy low.
All right, Matthew Golden. We were waiting for potentially to see a Matthew Golden breakout this week with Jaden Reed going out with a broken collarbone. I wouldn't say you got the breakout, but what I would say you got is
relevancy.
You got relevancy, and in a week where he doesn't score a long play or a touchdown, you saw him score 10 points. And that's kind of what we need to see from Golden before we're comfortable putting him in our starting lineups. It can't be 0 points or 20 points for Golden like it would have been last week if he had caught those 2 touchdowns. We need to see the 4 targets, 4 receptions for 52 yards. But also, what's very encouraging about Golden is they gave him 3 carries in this game as well, so 7 total touches for a guy who they're going to use in creative ways like end arounds and things like that. That's encouraging for Matthew Golden owners. And so if you have been patient with Matthew Golden, it looks like it's going to pay off very soon. 10 points in this game against Cleveland, obviously a very good defense, and the matchups are going to get better. They have Dallas the bye week and then Cincinnati in the next 3 weeks. And so Dallas and Cincinnati will be great for Matthew Golden to continue to come into his own. And if you continue to see the touches like this for Matthew Golden, and he starts adding maybe a touchdown or 2 or an explosive play or 2 on top of it, you could be talking about a Jameson Williams situation for that Green Bay Packers offense that is looking like one of the best teams in the NFL.
So I was doing a ton of start-sit questions this morning before the 1 o'clock slate, and I was really struggling to figure out who I wanted to start between like your Pearsalls, your Agbukas, et cetera, those types of wide receivers in that tier, because you have some injury questions. You've got just what is Pearsall's actual upside in this offense. And then the news comes out that Juwan Jennings is going to be out for the day, and he just became immediately like a smash start because he's the only guy left there. And lo and behold, in a 16-point game, a 16-point day for San Fran on the offensive side of the ball, Ricky Pearsall still has 19 points on 11 targets, 8 receptions for 117 yards. Mac Jones, again, throwing the ball 41 times. Ricky Pearsall is incapable of not producing when that volume is there, and he's the only wide receiver left in that offense. With Kittle out, with Ayuk out, with Jennings out, Ricky Pearsall from here on out is a must start until any of those guys come back healthy, and then we can kind of reanalyze. But at this point, you cannot leave Ricky Pearsall out of your starting lineup. He's looking real good and real explosive with his opportunity as well. So,
all right, the Cincinnati Bugles we've got to talk about because this is an absolute train wreck, at least in the first week without Joe Burrow, 48-10 going down to the Vikings. But let's look at the skill position players with Jake Browning at quarterback. What you've seen so far: Jamar Chase, 8.9 points. T. Higgins, 2.5 points. Chase Brown, 6 points in this game. And what people were spoon-feeding you all week was that T. Higgins is going to be just fine, and Jamar Chase is going to take a huge hit, and Chase Brown's going to be Joe Mixon in 2023. And it was always bullcrap. It was every single second of it was bullcrap. And the reason it was bullcrap was because you had to have not been paying attention, and you had to have not been watching this offensive line if you thought Chase Brown was going to do better without Joe Burrow. Chase Brown ran the ball 10 times for 3 yards today. Let that sink in.
Oh, God.
4 receptions for 17 yards salvaged his day. But guys, this is a guy who's already been inefficient this year, and he averaged 0.3 yards per carry in this game against Minnesota. This offensive line is
that's
atrocious.
Replaceable level.
Everything that is not built, everything that is not T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and Joe Burrow in this team, in this organization, is garbage, and it is bleeding through. It's affecting Chase Brown negatively. It's affecting Jamar Chase negatively, who, while you're going to see him, and let's look at the splits between Chase and Higgins here. 5 out of 6 receptions for Jamar Chase, so 6 targets for Chase, 2 targets for Higgins. And again, this goes to show that Chase is going to be used still as the heavily targeted wide receiver in this offense, contrary to what people were pointing at when they were pointing at the last time Jake Browning played. Jamar Chase gets different types of targets this time. He also got a couple carries. And so I would be very careful. As a Jamar Chase owner, this does worry me. I know he's still going to have 20-point weeks. I know he's going to have 8-point weeks. Fact of the matter is, he did have 8-point weeks occasionally with Joe Burrow. I think they'll be more frequent without him. T. Higgins, we said last week, it affected him more than it affected Chase. It looks like that's going to be true. He was targeted twice today. He had 1 catch for 15 yards in a game where they were trailing the entire game. One catch for 15 yards. Guys, this Bengals offense is a mess. It's a mess. The Bengals team is a mess. The Bengals organization is a mess. And so buying and leaning into the fact that Chase Brown's going to be a better running back moving forward was never, ever the move. And in fact, with Chase, look, there's a good argument to be made that we were a little bit too high on Chase in this situation. It's worse than we thought. And we were moving people down our rankings. I moved Chase to like 8th overall last week. It's worse than we thought. But for Chase Brown, this is not a positive. For T. Higgins, not a positive. For Jamar Chase, it is not a positive at all. This is a mess.
I will note that Minnesota is a really, really, really difficult matchup for the first week without Jake Browning because, again, Flores is going to blitz more than anyone else in the league, and Browning isn't going to be blitzed out the butt like every single game all the time because a lot of people just don't have the personnel to do that, a lot of defenses across the league. So you are going to have more productive games from each one of these guys from here on out. It's just not going to be consistent in our eyes. And, oh, by the way, Pirine and Brooks both combined for 9 carries to Chase Brown's 10. I think you might see some splits there if they're going to continually be more efficient with their opportunity and more of like a committee type of backfield.
And Pirine did get hurt, by the way, worth noting.
Yes. Taj Brooks will be a little interesting here.
Yep.
So next guy that we're going to talk about here is going to be Harvey and J.K. Dobbins. Just kind of an update on their usage and their opportunity. Dobbins just had another really great day. He's had 14, 15, and 15 points respectively the last couple of weeks. Though I will say, the snap share, at least for RJ Harvey, has kind of gone up a little bit. And while his opportunity was down today against the Chargers, he had 2 carries compared to the 6 and 5 he had against Tennessee and Indy. He did have 3 targets, 3 receptions, 14 yards. Dobbins' carries also went down. So again, kind of the game script for Denver as a whole. They just weren't running the ball as much. But Dobbins, 11 carries, 83 yards, a touchdown. And again, not really any receiving usage to write home about for JK. So while this is going to remain consistent for JK, this production in the teens, I think he is kind of showing what his ceiling is going to be rest of season, and it's not going to be necessarily elite level, and there is going to be room for Harvey to continue to eat into this workload and opportunity that Dobbins has at the moment. So eyes on this backfield. It's something that you're not going to want to just kind of brush off Harvey and be like, oh, he's not going to be anything for the rest of the year. Dobbins looks good. Harvey's going to start getting his own. Just that's the reality.
There were 2 tight ends in today's lineup of games that had very good games that we need to talk about. Hunter Henry and Jake Ferguson, both guys that when you're looking at where they're ranked rest of the season, when you're looking at how people have them, on their rosters, these guys aren't even rostered in all leagues. Jake Ferguson's 80% of leagues at this point. Hunter Henry is 41%. Hunter Henry is one of the best streaming tight ends in fantasy football, and after this week, he might not be a streaming tight end because he does look like, from time to time, Drake May's favorite target. He had 2 touchdowns today, but he had 11 targets. Like, I mean, this is something...
You've seen this in the past with him where he has like 11, 12 target games sometimes, but I mean, this was a 30-point game as opposed to like 15, 20-point games for him that you saw last year on multiple occasions. But even last year, he was a very nice streamable tight end as well. Every other game, he was double digits or more.
And what you saw consistently last year is, 9, 6, 8, 4, 9, 8, 9, 4, 8 targets. Like, consistently getting 6+ targets is something that you definitely want to keep an eye on. I mean, he gives you a very high floor as a tight end, and then he has the ceiling games where he scores 30 points because he has touchdowns. And Jake Ferguson, kind of the same thing, 14 targets. And now, Jake Ferguson's you have to take with a small grain of salt. It's going to depend largely on CeeDee and how his health is going to look going into the other weeks. Number one, they trailed the whole game, and so they were passing the whole game. Number two, he didn't have CeeDee to throw the ball to. And so Jake Ferguson instantaneously became one of the top targets, if not the top target, for Dak Prescott in this game. Because when you're looking at Pickens had a touchdown in this game, but in terms of target volume, 9 targets, 5 receptions, compared to 14 targets to 13 receptions with Jake Ferguson. So Ferguson, and Hunter Henry, if you're hurting at tight end, both are great options if they are still on waivers in your leagues. And I know especially Henry is going to be available in some of them. We have a lot of injuries to talk about and how this is going to affect fantasy football moving forward. So you're going to want to stay tuned for this one. Let's start with CeeDee Lamb. Lamb, I mean, at this point, he kind of got rolled up on. He went back in the game and then came out. He was like, I can't play. It doesn't look like something that's going to be necessarily super serious, I don't think, because it might have been his ankle.
Makes you worry about his route running efficiency, though.
It does, and it's probably going to be something that affects him like 3 to 4 weeks short term, if anything. I don't know if he'll play through it. At this point, though, it's not like he went back to the locker room. It's not like he went and got MRIs right away. He was on the sideline. He tried to come back in. But without him, what you see is a big uptick in volume for Jake Ferguson. You're going to see higher upsides for Georgie Pickens, right? And then you're also going to see, Javonte Williams in this game, where they even trailed a lot. They weren't necessarily running the ball a lot. Still had 12 points in this game because he ran the ball 10 times, but he had 5 receptions in this game. And so this Dallas Cowboys offense, you saw Dak have a little bit of a rough day too without CeeDee. This Dallas Cowboys offense runs around CeeDee Lamb. And so that is a big one that we're going to be monitoring. And he is somebody that if you drafted him, you obviously drafted him in the top 4 of your fantasy football drafts. This would be a big loss. We'll monitor the severity of that as we get more news.
Yeah, so James Conner goes down with, an ankle injury that looked pretty rough. You couldn't see it close up or anything because the bodies were blocking it. But he was crying. The whole team obviously was super sad about it. We were sad about it because we like James Conner a lot. But this is wheels up for Trey Benson. It looks like James Conner is that looked like a season-ending injury. I would be shocked if it wasn't. So wheels up for Benson. If he's available on waivers, you literally drop 100% of your waiver budget on Trey Benson. This is the type of waiver move that you've been waiting for. If you save your dollars, this is the move you make, is the Trey Benson move. You bet everything on Benson in Fab. So we'll talk about him in waivers a little bit more, but that was tough to see with Connor. But got to move on and got to look towards the next running back up in that offense, and that's Benson.
Yeah, Mike Evans, this is the least surprising thing I've said all offseason. I love Mike Evans to death. But, I think we have it on video, us saying that he was going to injure his hamstring again this year.
He just
has chronic hamstring issues. Yes. And that is the risk in drafting Mike Evans ever. It really is. He's going to undergo testing. Look, I think there's a decent chance Mike Evans goes on IR because this is what typically happens when he injures his hamstring. And so what does this mean? Chris Godwin looks like he's going to come back in week 4, so that obviously is going to be a big uptick in targets. They're going to very much need Chris Godwin as soon as he's back on the field. And Ibuka, man, dude just looks like, even if he's not scoring from a fantasy point perspective, if he's not scoring 20 points a game, I don't care. From an NFL wide receiver standpoint, the dude is pure. And he has 14 points, 8 targets, 6 receptions, 85 yards. I
love the guy.
Ridiculous. So fun to watch. Looks like one of the best, if not the best, rookie wide receiver in the NFL. I just freaking love it for Ibuka. And obviously, this is going to maintain Ibuka's production profile for longer if Mike Evans does miss time. We were worried about what does it look like with Evans and what does it look like with Godwin and Evans both involved in that offense. Now you don't have to worry about it. It looks like Ibuka is going to have that. Really, he's been the wide receiver 1 there so far. Ibuka just might be the wide receiver 1 in Tampa Bay at this point, and it doesn't look like it's going to change if Mike Evans is out for an extended period of time with a hamstring injury.
I was literally in the middle of messaging Avery like, "Oh, Terry exists. Terry's back. He's going to salvage the day again," and then it's announced that he's out for the rest of the day with a quad injury. He had less target volume than he did in week 2 against Green Bay with Marcus Mariota, which was expected. Had a big play where the touchdown was sniped from him because he was just short, like a yard or a half yard short. This is not good for Terry. This is very, very unfortunate once Daniels comes back as well. It's just one less receiving threat. Debo, honestly, I would say this is a neutral for Debo, honestly, because he had a really slow day against Vegas. And I don't think you can expect him to be like even better and have higher upside when Terry's not on the field, because again, they're very complementary in terms of their skill sets, which was a nice surprise this season. So with Terry being out or however long he's out, we don't even know if he will be out, but that's something you're definitely going to want to monitor. And that does impact, I think, the startability of not the startability, but just the outlook of a couple of guys in that offense, some positive, some negative. But overall, just for that offense as a whole in Washington, it's not great.
Yeah, you have to remember also, Terry McLaurin typically, historically in his NFL career, doesn't miss time very much. He's very durable, and he plays through injuries. So you might see that as well. It's just going to depend on the severity of the quad injury. Yeah, and I got robbed of the touchdown, too. I was so mad. All right, and then we already talked about this one. Najee Harris, it's an Achilles. You saw it. It's super unfortunate for Najee. So it's wheels up for Omarion Hampton. If you have Hampton.
I moved him out to, he's a top 10 running back now rest of the season
I would say Hampton is probably in my top 10 as well. And, anybody who's not ranking him in the top 14 at the very minimum is lying to you about the potential volume that Hampton's going to get from the receiving game and on the ground in this. There's no.
And let me just add here, this is not us being flaky with Omarion Hampton and so up and so down with him. Because, there's up and downs with Hampton, but realistically, guys, when Najee Harris was on the field, they were going out of their way to give him carries over Omarion Hampton. So for Najee actually no longer being a factor in that offense, it is wheels up for Omarion Hampton, and we can be higher on him now. Again, this is not like I wouldn't say that we missed on Hampton and his outlook. We moved him up accordingly because of that injury, and that's something that is very, very merited for his outlook rest of the season.
Yeah, it definitely is. All right, let's talk about the waivers section of this video. Now, again, if every league is different. If you have these guys in your league, of course, we talk about Trey Benson first. Like, this is going to be our obvious number one pickup. He's rostered in sleeper on 59% of leagues. I had him in the league. I just dropped him. It's a league where I have a ton of good players. It was a home league, and I got so many good guys late in rounds. I had nobody else to drop, and now I'm really, really kicking myself because I need running back in that league. But still, he's available in 40% of sleeper leagues, which means in ESPN and Yahoo leagues, that number is going to be even higher. You are dropping everything on Trey Benson.
Literally everything.
All of it.
Yep.
You're dropping all of it. We saw all of our fab in the Flock League dropped on Pearsall Tootin. Benson is situationally and from a talent standpoint, he is worth a lot more than Pearsall Tootin. You drop it all on Pearsall Tootin. 100% of your waiver budget. If you can get Trey Benson, he is somebody that could potentially win you your league. There's no question he is our number one pickup. Now, let's go to the other pickups in this league. We haven't really decided. Look, in my opinion, this is a pretty weak waivers week.
I think it's better than last week.
It is, but at the same time, I think there's a lot of fool's gold here. But Trey Tucker's an interesting one because I almost
40 points.
I know, because he had 3 touchdowns. Yeah. I almost put him on here last week, and I was like, he's only scored. He hit it because he had 8 targets. He only had 5 points. So I'm like, I don't think people are going to be. So he's only rostered in 6% of leagues. He's available pretty much everywhere. But today, 9 targets, 8 receptions, 145 yards. And what you've seen there is Brock Bowers, for example, today had 5 targets for 4 receptions and 38 yards. He's a little bit hobbled right now. Obviously, he's wearing a knee brace, and so you've seen that. Jacoby Myers in this offense today, he had 4 targets, 3 receptions. I mean, really, you saw Trey Tucker have a couple of big plays, and that's what Trey Tucker is in this offense. Now, in terms of how much of your fab you should spend for Trey Tucker, I would probably say anywhere between 5 and 15% is where I'm going to be comfortable. I don't think you spend over that because realistically, I don't think he's going to be somebody on a consistent basis getting 9 targets a game. He's had 8 and 9 in his last 2 games, but he had 3 in his first one, still playing 90% snaps, even though he did have a touchdown in that game and had 13.5 points. I think I don't think you're comfortable starting Trey Tucker, and because of that, I think you shouldn't go out of your way to drop the majority of your waiver budget on him. I think with Trey Tucker, 5-15% is appropriate. I don't think he'll go much higher than that in your leagues, and I definitely don't want to overreact to, even though it was a 40-point game by a receiver that was projected 5 points this week. It's still, that should show you how much of an outlier it is in the sense that he scored 3 touchdowns. Yards per catch was 18. He's not going to do this again. And so Trey Tucker, I'm comfortable spending on him, but just not spending that much.
Yeah, Hunter Henry, again, since he's streamable and is a guy that's available on waivers, available on waivers for a lot of people. Again, if you want to drop 10 to 20% anywhere between that, I think that's reasonable. I think that's fine. But again, generally, we're not guys. I would lean more on the 10% side because you just see so much volatility with these streamable tight ends every single week where Kincaid will have a good week. Ertz will have a good week. Juwan Johnson will have a good week. Hunter Henry will have a good week. And they're very few and far between in terms of the streamable tight ends that are actually going to be consistently productive for you week in and week out. They're streamable for a reason. So we're not going to freaking lose our minds about Hunter Henry right now. But again, if you are streaming tight end and you have a Mark Andrews and he's looking like unstartable at this point, then you may as well just go and pick him up and spend a little waiver budget, and it's totally good with us.
Alec Eierman are kind of the same thing. I'm going 5 to 15% for Alec. If he's rostered in 50% of leagues. He honestly was drafted in a lot of deeper leagues at the beginning of the year. He's still been held on a lot of rosters, and he's had 3, 15, and 13.7, 6, and 5 targets in his first couple games. Again, only 4 receptions today. But the reason he scored 13 points is because he got a touchdown there. And this is a team that was down 20 points to the Colts, that was slinging the ball, and he happened to get another touchdown. Maybe I'm just dragging my feet on this one, but I just feel like with Alec Eierman, there are going to be weeks where he scores 3 points. And I just don't feel comfortable starting him. And again, I don't want to pay up for a guy that I don't think is going to be startable all season. Now, that said, he's clearly the number 2 wide receiver there. And so if you want to make the argument that Cam Ward is good enough to support, either...
This is just another day where Ridley has gotten 7 targets and 1 reception. He cannot haul in his opportunities.
No, he can't.
And some of them are accurate targets, too. He had multiple drops today.
And Ward has thrown the ball 28, 33, and 38 times, so you've seen his attempts go up. And if that does continue, then Alec could be somebody that's value. I don't know. I think with Alec, I honestly would put him as the number 2 priority, I think he's probably more realistically consistent than Trey Tucker is, and I would probably go 10 to 20% for Alec Eierman is what I would be dropping. I think people will be more aggressive with Alec, and so I think we need to probably shift to what we need to bet on him. And also, this is a rookie, and rookie wide receivers are kind of wild cards. You don't want to miss out on a rookie wide receiver because you're too conservative with your fab. When in reality,
offense especially
holding your fab is not. I mean, having all the fab at the end of the year does nothing for you. If this is the guy you want, go get him. I'm gonna put him at number 2 here. I honestly think that he's somebody that I would bid pretty aggressively on compared to like a Trey Tucker or Hunter Henry guy.
So with Washington, we were really excited to see what this running back split was going to look like, and holy cow, was that a 3-way split. JCM, Jeremy McNichols, Chris Rodriguez actually getting the first series, 19 in total plays for Chris Rodriguez, 23 for JCM, 12 for Jeremy McNichols, and then the rest of the field combined for like 4 after that as well. So 15, 19, and 23. JCM technically was the quote-unquote number 1 option there, but this is a 3-back committee, and it is ugly. It is really, really ugly in that backfield. None of them look like viable, consistent options that you can count on anytime soon here. And again, if this is one where we're not going to panic about JCM yet and say that, he's never going to be like a guy that you are super comfortable flexing for the rest of the season. This could just be them trying to ease him into a higher workload over time. But still, even with Eckler going down, the fact that Chris Rodriguez was a healthy scratch until week 3 and they gave him the nod and gave him like the first touches of the game just makes you show that they don't really see a difference between any of those guys at the moment until one of them shows that they can elevate themselves over the others. And that's just not what we're seeing right now. But Chris Rodriguez, we are going to have on waivers because he did get a third of those opportunities and carries. So he at least is rosterable right now because he's not a healthy scratch. He got the nod at the beginning of the game, which is very, very relevant. JCM did get that goal line carry, but Rodriguez, any given week, again, we're 1 injury away now from this being a 2-back split. And you just saw Eckler going down. We've never seen any of these guys take on a significant amount of workload. So how durable are they going to be? Take a cheap shot on Chris Rodriguez. I'm talking probably like 5% with him.
All right, a couple of receivers, young receivers that really looked good today. Torrey Horton had 2 touchdowns. He really had an identical stat line to what he had last week. He had 1 more catch, same amount of yards, and he had a touchdown. That's exactly what he did. In week 2, 4 targets, 2 receptions, 32 yards, and a touchdown. In week 3, 4 targets, 3 receptions, 32 yards, and a touchdown. And so what you saw with Torrey Horton is he got 6 points for the special teams touchdown, which, again, you don't want to take that into account when you're considering the volume that he's going to be getting moving forward. And so with Torrey Horton, 0 to 10%, kind of the same thing with Luther Burden. Luther Burden had 3 catches for 100 yards, the Randy Moss stat line. And so I think with Luther Burden, he's a great player for upside, though. He was a great prospect, and honestly, he's playing on a decent offense. And so if you can get Luther Burden for 0 to 10%, 3%, then I'm cool with that as well. And then Amari DiMarcado, probably 0 to 3%. Not super spending on Amari DiMarcado. So that's what we've got for you this week. Actually, a pretty consequential waiver week with some of the injuries. Big injury week with large ramifications. And then we continue to figure out running back backfields. We continue to figure out what the Bengals are going to look like, things like that. Do us a huge favor. If you enjoy the playbook every Sunday night, it is difficult to put out and produce so quickly. So make sure you drop a like, especially for our editing team, and make sure you're subscribed as well. We will continuously work to bring you the best fantasy football content that we can. We appreciate you guys. We'll see you in the morning with our buys video for week 4. Hope you won week 3. Peace out. We'll see you tomorrow.